So see, we will anyway start it from grade 10. So there are like 9 units. So I will just quickly go through this each and every unit in every revision classes. Okay. So the thing is this, I'm not going to teach everything in deep because in depth, because the reason is actually you might have already studied. These are just revisions. So anyway, we will just start from this information and the first unit, information and communication technology. Okay, now here there are just few things for you to study. Okay, one is data and information. Okay, what is data? What is information? Examples for them and the difference between data and information. Those things you should know here. And when you scroll down, you should know what is information system. Okay, for examples for that. That is very important. And the information system, it has some functions. You should know that. Okay, any information system, they have some functions. So you should know that functions. And the information, quality of information, it's there, but yeah, you should know that as well. And the next thing is ICT is applications of ICT. Okay. And you have some history, computer history and all. And finally, you have demerits, the disadvantages of ICT. So these are the things that you should know from the first unit. Okay. So see, now we'll start from this one, data and information. So I think that you might have already studied and you are aware of these things, but I will anyway repeat everything. I mean, revising them. So the data is actually anything. So whatever is actually going to be data when it has no meaning. Okay, it can be, now in your book they have mentioned numbers, words, images, symbols, or simply anything without meaning. Okay, when it's having no meaning, it's actually a data, and there's no meaning, then it's data. Simple as that. Okay, so the information is actually, it has meaning. That's the very important difference between the data and information. Okay, so it's just there now, but you can't just describe these things when you write answers in your examinations. You have to just prove them, or you have by giving examples. So examples are very important, because when you give those examples only, the examiners, they understand that you understood these things or you know these things. So then they will give you the full marks. If you can't just say data is actually the numbers, words, images, and symbols, which do not be a meaning. You can't just say that. You have to mention it. Plus, you have to give some examples. That's very important. Okay, it's very important. And for the information also, you have to give that statement. What is information? That should be, you should mention it. It should be mentioned. Plus, you have to give examples. Okay. Now, actually, I have already written those some just few examples and all. It's actually as a short note. Actually, I just when I was teaching for a student, I just wrote these things as a short note. So now you also can go through this. This is for unit 1, data information. Now, for example, I have just mentioned this. Now we can just change it to 0 0 0 3 6 8. Okay, now see, now this is actually an example. Okay, so when someone say the number, or when you see a number, so let's say 0, this number 0 7 6 0 0 0, so this types of number, so it is just data, it's just a data. Okay, but from that data you will be able to get information when you process it, which means if you want information from data, you have to process it. That's it. Okay, now, so which means like it has no meaning when you just look at it. Okay, or someone saying 0760000, something like that. So we are hearing it, but you don't understand, because the reason is it has no meaning. It's just saying, oh, when you just see this number, it has no meaning, but it will become so, in the sense that you can produce information, or you can get some meaningful information from that data when you process it. So process, in the sense, it can be anything, like there are so many processes. So that, for example, I have just mentioned thinking, analyzing, counting, that kind of mathematical operations and everything, they actually process. Okay, so there are so many computer processes and all. It is just few of them: thinking, analyzing, and all, addition, subtraction. So they actually process. So now you have to do any of those process in order to get information, in order to get the information from the data. Okay, so I think you understand this thing. Now just see. So when you process it, in the sense like this number is given, you are thinking on it, you are analyzing. Okay, how to think, how to analyze. Now you just look at this 0 7 6, and you are counting. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So 10 numbers are there. So then we have one information that it could be a phone number. So it is a phone number. So it's actually an information. This is data. We processed it. We counted the number, the digits from this number, and we got an information that is actually this number is a phone number. So then, what is that? That is information. And when you just look at these digits, it's 0 7 6. So we know that it's actually the service provider, communication service provider. So that is dial-up. So these are actually information that we can get from that data. So that data is actually a number. So from that number, we can get this information when we process it. So what was the process? We count the number, and then we just analyzed it. Okay, we just use our brain to do these types of analyze. We just do it. Otherwise, if it's a computer system, computer will be doing some operations on data to get the information, to give up the information. So it is just there. Okay, so these are the differences, and these are the explanation for data and information. So data is just has no meaning, and when you process it, we can get information out of data. Out of data, we can get information. So for that one, we have to process the data. So that's it. It's very simple. You don't need to just think too much here, which is simple thing from that unit 1. And the another thing is actually this one, information system. The second one is information system that you should learn from your first unit. Okay, there are so many examples that you can just go through for data and information. Now the same that goes for applied for the NIC. So it's just data. This number is data. But when you processing in this is what? We are just analyzing this number. So that is the process. That the form of process is actually analyzing. We are analyzing, and we are just see. When we see this V and all, we just understand that okay, it's an NIC. So that is also NIC number. That is also an information. Okay, so that's also an information. So we are just getting something now. So that is information actually. So when we analyze, we just come to know that it is a NIC number, then that is information. And these two actually mentions the year of birth. So he's actually he or she born in 1974. Okay, and now you can understand that 0 to 4 denotes that the person is male, and 5 to 9 the person is female. So we are, it is actually thinking process, analyzing process, and all. So that is what we are just doing here. Okay, so to do that you should already have this type of knowledge. Okay, otherwise we can't just get this information that is there. Okay, that should be there. Without having some sort of knowledge on that, without having that kind of information, you can't just get the information from the data. Okay, so 0 to 4 denotes the person is male, is actually the knowledge, and that's also information. So you should have that. You should have some information to get information from data. Okay, sometimes you require data to get the information from data. So there are so many things there. Okay, so anyway, you don't need to just spend much time here just studying these things. It's very simple. It should be simple for you, very easy thing. Okay, these are just 2 things that you should know. And the next thing is actually information system. So information system is actually the system that a system that which can produce information, which can give us information. That is information system. So it can be a manual system or a computer-based system, but it should produce information. It should give us or produce the information. So to produce that, you know that there should be data. So that should be there, and it should be processed. Okay, then we will get the information will be produced. That's how it just happened. Okay, but now here there are 3 functions that you should know: input, process, and output. Not just 3, there are other functions too, but the basic functions, these are the basic functions of information system, of any information system. These 3 are basic functions. Okay, now we have to, as I said before, we need data to produce information. So now we are actually giving that as input to the information system. We are just feeding this data as input, and it will be processed, and we will be getting an output that will be actually information. Okay, that's how it just works. So there are so many information systems. They have just mentioned the example, ATM and all. There are so many things. Okay. Now they have just mentioned ATM card and keyboard, paying system, that computing, that's the process, and the information is actually account balance and all. But I have just written that in a different way. So now this is actually systems that can produce information are called information system. Okay, because now I just started mentioning from the systems, because the reason is there's meaning, there are meanings for systems. Okay, for a system you can just describe it in different ways and all, so that's there. So I'm not explaining what is system, I'm just explaining information system. So information system is a system, but the difference from other system and this one is actually it can produce information at the end. Okay, so it will be involving or working with data and will be processing the data and will be giving information. So that's how it just work. So that any information system. So input is a function of information system, and that input can be data or instruction. Okay, now for example, like I said that you should have the knowledge and all, so that's actually instruction. So instruction, you will be just giving the instruction with your knowledge, so that's there. So and the process is actually, it can be a logical process or arithmetic process. Okay, true or false, or sometimes arithmetical operations, they can be a process. Okay, now the thinking is actually a logical process. Now we are just thinking. Okay, now we are just thinking, okay, 076 is actually dialogue. So that's actually a logical process. So if it is 076, it's dialogue. And then if it's 078, it's hush number. So it's actually what? Logic. So that's there. And output is going to be information. Now I think I'm just repeating this again and again. So anyway, we'll see the example. ATM machine, ATM is actually an information system. So there are so many input, not just PIN number and all. Okay, there are many input and many process and many output too. But I have just mentioned just one input and one process and one output. So the input is actually, we are entering the PIN number of the card. It's an input. It's a data. PIN number is a data, and we are just inputting it. And it will be processed. When you get enter the data, or when you input something, it will be processed. For example, not just data. Okay, now you have to just give. Sometimes you will be just giving instructions too. For example, like when you just consider the calculators. Now, when you add two numbers, you are just entering the number 1, number 2, plus you are giving two instructions. One is actually addition. Add these two numbers. That is an instruction. And then you are just going to press enter or the equal sign to get the output. So that is also which means give me the output. Add two number is instruction. Give me the output is another instruction. So you should know that not just data there should be, but when you consider these ATMs, you will be just entering your number. Sometimes in some banks they will be having press. You have, after entering the number, you have to press the button. So that's actually instruction. Okay, now I have entered the number, something like that. You will be just instructing the computer or the system. Or sometimes when you just finish entering, it will be automatically start its process. But which means that instruction is already given. Okay, that computer instruction is already given. So that you are not giving the instruction. User is not giving any instruction. So already the instruction is given. The computer program is actually written. So that is also instruction. Okay, so now you have to consider those things. So the pin number and input, and it will be verified. That's actually a process. Now when you input, it will be verified. Okay, it will verify. Just check the pin number, whether it's actually connected with the card or not. It will be verified. And then the information that you get is actually it's not tangible. Actually, they don't see that. They don't say your card is valid. But if your card or the verification is actually failed, then they will be saying that wrong pin number, or sometimes it will give you a card out. Okay, it will send the card out. So it's just there. So it's not tangible. Okay, now this is actually not tangible, but it's there, right? When after verifying the number, what happens there? You can check your balance. You can check withdraw money. So it's, or you can change pin number. So many things you can do. But before that, there's an information that is actually your pin number is valid or not. That's actually information. Sometimes it can be valid number, or sometimes an invalid number. So it is an information. Okay. So that is how you have to think. Okay, you can't just write these types of answers and all. You have to anyway think of these things. Then only you can just get the best out of it. The best. So you can't just write the examples and all. You have to think and write the right examples in your examination. So then only you can get the full marks. So if it's actually the 5 marks is allocated for this type of question, okay, you're just writing this one, that's not enough, and writing this, that's also not enough. You have to write this. It's actually a complete answer. Okay, now the question may be explain information system, something like that. Okay, with the example, or sometimes they don't just mention the example or not, but you have to anyway consider the marks. So if it is 5, then you have to write this much. If it's 2, then these are enough. You don't need to go for examples. So it always depends on the marks that is actually allocated for a particular question. Because without considering that, now you have to spend time on questions that is actually given more marks. For 2-3 marks questions, you have to just write short descriptions, answers, and now that's enough. Okay, you don't need to spend, or you don't need to write paragraphs and paragraphs for that types of questions and all. So it's just there. You have to consider those things while writing answers. Okay, now next thing is actually applications of ICT. Okay, now these are actually use of ICT, something like that. You can just say. Okay, now here, this is ICT is actually used in almost every field, every industry, every sector. So because of that, we can't just skip any of the sectors from this application of ICT from this section. Okay, but here in your book, they have just mentioned about e-government industries. This is the companies and all, business, entertainment, transport, agriculture, health, education. That's what they have mentioned. But there are so many sectors and all. They are actually, every sector is actually using ICT. So because of that, when it's asked, it's a general question. It should be anyway a general question, because it is not just for ICT and all. So it could be a general question. So just explaining the usage or applications of ICT, applications of computer and all, anything. So now at that moment, at that point, now you have to just consider You can't just explain all these sectors in your exams. You have to just go for, I normally prefer like education. Okay, you can just write so many things there, and you can simply write about entertainment, the use of ICT in entertainment, and the health sector also, because there are so many devices, you can just focus that as well. And then e-government. So these are the 4 sectors that you can simply focus, and you can simply write answers. If it is not mentioned, if the sector is or the industry is not mentioned, you can select education, e-government, health, or entertainment. Okay, now you can just explain those things, because it's very easy. I'm not going to teach these things because it's just simple, very simple. When you just read this, you will understand. There's nothing difficult for you to confuse with this section. Okay, now, but if you have any doubts in this field, in these sections and all, just let me know. Then I'll be just anyway answering for that. Okay. So now I think it's enough for today. So we have studied up to this, we have covered this. Now I'm not going to go through these things because it's just simple. They are actually used. That's actually application of ICT. So you don't need to we don't need to spend time on this. Okay. So in the next class, we will just study some demerits are there, and then the evolution of computer. So I will just be just going through this in the next session revision class. So hope you will be just joining that class too. Okay, so with that, I will be just ending today's session. We'll see you in the next class. Bye.